Trash Talkers, welcome back. I'm here again with Seth King Khan.
What's going on?
We're filming a bit of a different podcast tonight. So we had UFC 255 come up. We decided to skip the predictions for that. It just wasn't something that really got me excited myself. I was not into it. There was a few changes to the card. For example, originally they had Cody Garbrandt as a main event, which is my favorite fighter if you haven't guessed. He was scheduled to come down. He's the former 135 bantamweight champion. He was scheduled to come down, fight against an absolute animal, Devin Figueiredo, at 125. Try and do something that his arch nemesis TJ Dillashaw could not do, which was take 2 titles from the division below at flyweight. Unfortunately, yes, that got canceled. Originally, it was said it was a bicep injury, but I'm going to explain more of that in about a couple minutes. But the other thing was originally Robbie Lawler, ruthless Robbie Lawler was scheduled to face against Mike Perry. And Robbie Lawler was out of that bout, so Mike Perry ended up fighting Tim Means, which we're going to explain more about how that fight went later in the podcast. And then Jose Aldo versus Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera obviously just finished Sugar Sean O'Malley, who was a high prospect. That fight was supposed to be on there as well, but that got pushed back to the hot December 19th card that everyone's talking about. That left UFC 255 looking pretty dry in my opinion, but after watching the fight, I had a completely different opinion. Those were some of the greatest fights I've ever seen in my life. From the start of the night, it was... from the start of the night, it was the first round of the first fight was telling me fight of the night. And that went on, and the more the night went on, it was like bonuses. How the fuck is Dana White gonna figure out these bonuses? I really, really, really enjoyed that night, but it was still like up front. That's the way you look at it. I was not gonna pay for that, and I was pretty upset with the names on it. So here we are. But that's why we skipped the predictions for that. I wanted to really actually get excited for what I was doing, and I felt like a week later would be better to jump up on the UFC 256, which is going to be in December 12th, and also cover November 28th, which is going to be Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. And it just seemed like a better idea. So that's why we're at.
And here we are.
We are where we are. Yeah, and then our next show is going to be a little while. It's going to be 7.5 weeks until we come back again, but that's going to be the return of Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, number 2, UFC 257.
So we wish you a Merry Christmas before
that
happens.
Yes.
Because we won't see until the New Year.
So, yeah, it's happy fights and Merry Christmas, and let's get to the rest of it.
Exactly.
So the last time we would have covered anything, we filmed on October 15th, just before the fights, because we like to do it a week early, so I get a little editing time. But we would have been right before the Loma fight, which I would have said Loma would have mopped the floor with Teofimo Lopez, which was not the case at all. The Matrix did not do what he normally does, and there was a lot of controversy about the whole situation, but at the same time, something that everybody can agree on, at least to some extent, is that Teofimo Lopez is the champion. That's what we can agree on. there's no controversy about the fact that Loma might have won the fight. No. Loma did not win the fight. The only controversy I had on that myself is that Loma may have did enough to get the draw. Once I went back and looked at the fight, I realized no, 100%. Loma had lost 7 rounds to 5. Very fucking close fight. It's just, he didn't do quite enough. He started off the fight very, very, very slow. 6 rounds he would have lost. A lot of the... I was following a lot of Andre Ward's cards, which, to me, Andre Ward's cards seemed accurate until I looked back on them, which said he won the second round, and I did not.
He had it as a draw, didn't he, at the end of it?
He had it, yeah. Andre Ward had that fight as a draw, but I did not agree that it was a draw whatsoever.
What I didn't get was the one judge that called 119-109.
Yeah, and that was actually that was Julie Letterman.
That was bullshit to
Julie Letterman. So the real quick, Andre Ward had the fight a draw. I had the fight a draw based on what I was watching. When I looked back at it, I had it seven rounds to 5, 1 round up for Lopez. Basically what I had it was the 12th round decided everything. Whoever won that 12th round decided everything, and Lopez, according to the judges, even if Loma came out and fucking did what he did 5 rounds before to Lopez, it wouldn't have made a fucking difference. It would not have made any difference to the fight outcome. Which is upsetting, because what I viewed it as was for the first 6
whooping some ass.
Yeah, there. for the 6 rounds, I had Loma starting it way too slow. We were sitting there going, he's eventually going to start. 2 rounds, 3 rounds, he's going to start soon. He did not start until the 7th round. Once the 7th round came, he started to pick it up. Yeah. He started to win rounds. He started to show that he was, I don't want to say this too poorly because Lopez won that fight, but he started to show that he may have been in another class than Lopez.
There's even a couple times in that fight, Lomachenko started to frustrate Lopez. Lopez would get angry, start to show his emotions a little bit. And remember the bunch of the ducking below the belt Lopez was doing too?
Oh, yeah, and that was the other thing was
all night below Lomachenko.
He was ducking below the belt, and he was holding on, and
way too much.
Unfortunately, and I know a lot of people didn't bring this up, but unfortunately, a lot of the time, they were clinching, and it was because of Lopez tying up like that, because he was going low and he was tying up, and it was that type of stuff needs to be called. I know people don't like it, when a guy like Lopez goes out and he takes out the pound for pound greatest in the world. People don't like it when you say the ref should have been calling. And
you can't put your head below a fighter's belt.
Well, if Lomachenko's throwing and he's trying to land,
and you're putting your head down, way below, come on, man.
You need to be warned.
Yeah,
is at least, and he was not warned for any of that. But nevertheless, nevertheless, he won the fight. He deserved to win the fight. But my only issue with that entire fight is I think that Lomachenko, I know he starts off slow. I think Lomachenko figured him out. I think Lopez won the first fight 7 rounds to 5, and he had a phenomenal performance. But I think once everything, if Lopez takes the rematch, and he should, he's talking about other things, but you win a fight that close, you should take the rematch.
I don't think you will.
You should take the rematch. So I think if things circulate in Lopez decides to take the rematch, I think he gets smoked likely 9-3. I think he gets smoked 9-3 against
I saw
Loma.
some of Lopez's comments. Like, this is like week directly
He's
after the
he's
fight.
a young boy, man. He's
and
a young
he
boy.
said
Yeah.
he's not going to give Lomachenko. There's no rematch clause,
Ever.
he said.
Ever. Yeah, okay, there's no...
He's talking it,
no,
right? But like,
there's no rematch clause, and honestly, I think Bob Arum is so full up his fucking ass that he is fucking wanted this to happen, and he wanted Lomachenko to fucking be out of there. But if anything comes up where they're supposed to be in a rematch, Bob Arum is going to be fighting for his life to make that not happen because he knows what would happen in the rematch.
Lomachenko would win.
Lomachenko has figured him out.
I had him in the first fight. I'll take him in the second fight.
I would take him in the second fight, and I would, like I said, I would take it 9-3.
Because you guaranteed 100% Lomachenko will not be sleeping like he was that first fight. He will come out fast.
I know. I still do think, because he's already figured him out, obviously, this would be one of the first rematches that Lomachenko has ever had. So I think it would take 2 rounds to figure him out.
Remember when Lomachenko actually turned it on during the fight? He actually was able to shut Lopez down.
8th round, especially. 7th round is when it
chased him down.
7th round is when it started. 8th round is when it picked up.
Right.
But what, like, as far as like Bob Arum and Lopez, I honestly think they are running scared because they know for a fact.
Oh, 100%.
Lomachenko would come out, and Lopez won the fight. You cannot take he is the fucking.
So you wouldn't dare call it a fluke.
No, Lopez is the unified fucking champion at lightweight. Right now.
He is.
He
is.
He earned it.
Right.
He earned it.
No one's saying he didn't.
Yeah.
But the thing is, do you call it a fluke?
No.
A bad night on Lomachenko's part?
No. I call it a night where Lomachenko
didn't show up?
Couldn't figure out his opponent until the 7th round. And now that he knows his opponent,
he's going to eat
the
him up.
The rematch will be 2 rounds of fucking figuring it out. And he'll likely go 9 or 10 rounds of clearing him up. I think that's the only way to look at it. He'll go 9 or 10 rounds of taking him apart, and he might lose 1 round in between, but I have it 9-3 for Loma if they rematch.
No.
Anyways, but
if they even go that far.
So the other thing that night we were just talking about, so we had the only thing, so the judges themselves scored it 118 for one judge, 117 for another judge, and the biggest thing in favor of Lopez, but the biggest thing was a 119 to 109.
That's what I brought up earlier.
Yeah, and that's what bullshit. And that's the thing. That is 11 rounds to 1 for Lomachenko.
Me and you watched
for Lopez against Lomachenko.
Me and you watched that fight. Did you see did you see that big of a... Me and you said at the same time, what? 119, 109? What?
Do you remember? You know what the crazy part about that is?
Like...
Do you know what the crazy part about that is? So it was Julie Lederman. Do you know what the craziest part about the scorecard was? Do you remember that round when Lomachenko fucked him up?
Yeah.
She scored that for Lopez. That wasn't even the round she gave to him.
See, she wasn't even watching the fight.
You're sleeping on that. And that's what I say. Some serious...
That's ridiculous.
Some serious investigation needs to go in to whether you're fit for a job like that. If you scored that round that Lomachenko fucking annihilated him in favor of Lopez. Serious investigation.
Seriously,
like either you're being paid off by Top Rank, or you just need to quit your job and find something else.
Paul Williams versus Edison Lara. I covered this the last episode.
Edison Lara beat him pretty bad, though.
Judges who scored this fight had to go back to training.
Yeah.
Paul Williams wins.
Yeah.
They judged it that bad.
Yeah,
that girl.
That was a long time ago, but I remember that fight being very bad. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Paul Williams was my favorite boxer that I have ever laid eyes on. It was when I was a teenager. That was my first favorite boxer.
Was Paul Williams. Hey, he was an unorthodox style. He was tall, lanky, but he came forward like a Rocky Marciano, knockout power.
Yeah. Just
performed one of the best knockouts. Was involved in most of the best knockouts throughout the early 2000s, like the 2009, 10s.
Yeah.
On and so forth. I have a couple of Ring magazines I'll be bringing by next time Paul Williams is involved in them. We go back in history.
You're going to like this. So, moving on, like October 24th, we had UFC 254. That's what we predicted, actually. UFC 254 was our last show.
Mm-hmm.
That was Habib versus Justin Geishi. The greatest thing that I had on that was the Nelk Boys. You remember? Have I brought up the Nelk Boys to you?
A little bit, yes.
They're voice crack. They they are the Full Send guys. So they have the brand. Have you ever heard of Full Send?
No.
Okay, you're a little too old. You're in your 30s now. You're a little too old for that. But
I'm just 30.
Dana White knows what Full Send is, but okay. But
is it a YouTube thing?
It's originally
is
on
it
YouTube.
Jake Paul type?
No, but they do know who Jake Paul is.
Oh, they do know who that is.
So
might be mention that clown later in the show. I don't know.
So the Nelk Boys, though, they basically Kyle is the head of the company basically, and I've been watching him, and I think it was back when he had two twins that were like on a show or YouTube channel, and they'd go around and they'd be playing the guitar, and Kyle would go into Ontario universities and like sing to girls and serenade them in the university, and everybody would act all embarrassed, or he'd do it to the professors, and it was fucking hilarious and this and that. So that was the start. I watched them. They had 20,000 followers at that time, and we got to a point where I'm like myself, I am fucking mind blown at how much that channel has taken off. Kyle, he's got Jesse now. He's got Steve Will Do It, which is Steve Will Do It's like hilarious as fuck. I love that guy too. And then he's got a new guy, Salim, who comes in, but basically he has gotten so fucking big to the point where right before their comeback episode that they were having, where they were like putting out a new YouTube video, it was all based on them being the only fans allowed inside of the Habib versus Justin Gaethje fight, and they were getting drunk as fuck in Dana White's VIP room. And Dana White's sitting there getting drunk with them too, and it's awesome. And the funniest part, so they post the video, but the funniest part is like they got fucking interviews with the fighters. So they're going up to Justin, and Justin's like obviously in the zone and this and that, and he's not saying too much, but he's still being like a friendly guy.
Yeah.
Habib obviously doesn't understand as much like in the English language, so when people are being sarcastic with him, he got a little confused, and it made for one of the funniest fucking interviews ever. Kyle walks up and he goes, yeah, so like I'm just wondering, like, how old do you think is like too old to start fighting? I'm 26. And Habib goes, yes, that's probably too old. And he goes, okay, I'm just wondering, because like my girl, like, she decided to like go out with her girls for the night, and like she ended up going out to one of those Miami nightclubs, and she seen Jorge Masvidal, and she ended up like sleeping with Jorge Masvidal and fucking him. So like I fucking hate that guy, and like I just want to like go out and find him in some setting and just like sprint up to him and lay a flying knee on him. Like, what do you think about that? Like, how do you think I could do that? And Habib's sitting there and he's like all confused. He's like, Yes, oh, you can try. You can try.
You could try.
So that was a great video, but yeah, no, they're funny as ever. They I'm like, it's crazy to say, but like as a fan, because I usually don't fanboy too much, but I met them when I was in Kingston.
Yeah.
I usually don't fanboy too much over like YouTube channels and shit, but I'm a huge fan. The fact that they went from 20,000 followers to when I discovered them to 6 million. It's impressive and incredible. It really is.
It's a big jump. Yeah. The world of the social media and YouTube.
But yeah, also one other thing, because I mentioned Full Send. So they have one. They have their full. This is once we release this video. Unless I do it. What day is it? Monday? Yeah, no, it's already released. It's 9:30. It released an hour and 1 minute ago. So basically, they have their Full Send UFC gear tonight. Which, because when they went down there, they obviously made like some promotion, some deal with the UFC that they were gonna send out Full Send UFC gear that was gonna be available for purchase. And that was 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Monday, November 23rd. So that's likely all. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that's likely already sold out in an hour and 1 minute. Hour and 2 minutes now. I just seen that clock change. Yeah. So that is likely sold out. So that's very cool. The UFC teamed up with the Nelk Boys, but you will likely never see that merchandise. I'm sorry. Once this video comes out, you will likely not see that merchandise, but it is very, very cool. So, so besides that, though, we'll get to the other results. So yeah, like we said, Habib defeats Geishi. It was the exact way I predicted. I expected I didn't. Sorry, I said submission. I said Habib was gonna pick him apart on the feet. He was gonna Justin Geishi was gonna be too square of a stance. He was gonna find those legs. Eventually, after picking him apart, he was gonna take those legs. He was gonna smother him on the ground, and he was gonna submit him in some way within the second round. The way that he did submit him is something that I did not guess, because I never expected Habib Nurmagomedov to be on his back, but Habib ended up submitting him with just a regular triangle choke. So that was pretty cool. Then
he announces his retirement.
Yeah, that was that was a very like easy stylistic fight for Habib. That's what I thought. He was training for that fight and fighting with a broken foot. So he fought with a broken foot. And then so far, like you said, he had his retirement, and so far he's been keeping very, very true to his retirement. Dana White does not share the same feelings. He thinks Habib's going to be back soon. He thinks that Habib was just emotional that night and wanted to say what he had to say, but a Dagestanian mother makes the rules, so we'll see.
What do you think? Back or no?
I think
personal opinion.
I think he should respect his mother's decision, but if he can convince her that he needs one more fight, I hope we come and see him against either a Conor McGregor rematch where Conor beats Dustin Poirier and is in line for the title, or we see what I actually want to see, which is a wrestling match between Habib Nurmagomedov and George St. Pierre. So we'll see.
We will see. We'll see.
Next on that night we got before any of the rest of the card. Right now, so Habib Nurmagomedov, say he doesn't vacate the title, he stays active. Who deserves the next title shot? You think Tony still comes in? Tony's fighting against Charles Oliveira in his next fight, which is probably one of the greatest matches I've ever heard. Like, that's an awesome match. Justin Geishi just lost. And then there's Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. And honestly, if Conor McGregor whoops Dustin Poirier like he did the first time...
What if Poirier whoops McGregor?
Oh, Poirier already gets his ass kicked by Habib, so I kind of hope that McGregor... And so did McGregor too, but McGregor did better than anyone.
Okay.
So and that was when he was drunk the week before, like we were just talking about.
Yeah.
McGregor has a different mindset now. And I hope if he does beat Poirier...
It's a mindset thing.
It's a mindset thing. I hope if he does beat Poirier, I do hope that he gets the rematch, because I think that McGregor like is a different animal when he's focused.
He probably is.
But if that's not the case, GSP, of course. If McGregor loses, GSP's a lot of money.
Yep.
And
GSP would be a better fight for me to watch.
But if like
I'd watch McGregor and Habib go at it again, don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, but if Habib's retired, who deserves the title shot for the vacated lightweight title?
Winner of McGregor versus Poirier, of course.
And who? Justin Geishi?
Well, he just lost, like you explained.
To the title challenger.
So yeah.
Or sorry, to the title holder.
So yeah, him.
So you think Justin, just straight up Justin?
Yeah, because the way it works.
Okay.
The way it should work in my mind. He's there.
Because he beat Tony. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So McGregor or Poirier against Justin for the vacated title.
McGregor and Poirier. Right?
Yeah.
And then versus Justin Geishi.
Okay.
And let it play out from there.
So then we got that night, Robert Whittaker had an impressive one-sided decision win over Jared Cannonier. And then Alexander Volkov knocked out Walt Harris 1 minute and 15 seconds into the second round, which was really good. Halloween. Here we go. Mm-hmm. Halloween night. We had Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall. Did you watch that?
Mm-hmm.
You watched the whole card?
Yeah.
So basically...
Particularly the Silva fight.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really, really upsetting for me. And it was not just because I had bet on Silva to win. It was really upsetting for me, the fact that I had bet on Silva to win by decision. And the way it was going, we were about 2 rounds in, 2.5 rounds. It
happened quick.
Yes, it did.
It happened really so fucking quick.
Yeah,
I wanted Silva to win. I was going for Anderson.
And did you think after the first 2.5 rounds he was still gonna win? Looking at it, like you were nervous the whole time, but did you think he was gonna win?
I believed in the Anderson of old, thinking he would strike or something. He would do something, but then something happened to him, and I just remember texting saying, "Damn," and you're like, "Damn." Because just the way it just boom, and the next thing you know, you fuck.
Well, that was the thing. So it was like, for me, it was I had Anderson by decision. I truly thought Anderson was gonna win that fight, and he came out. They were sitting there doing some boxing.
Yeah.
And Anderson was like landing a lot of feints that he was throwing, and I was texting a few of my friends saying, "Holy crap, man! Like, he's doing it. He's actually doing it right now."
He could.
2 rounds. I had Anderson up at least. It would have been 2 rounds to 1 likely. It was like a couple close rounds, but it would have been 2 rounds to 1 leading into the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, if he didn't get knocked on his ass at the end of the 3rd. And even so, it would have even so, Anderson won that round leading up to it.
I just can't believe the way it happened.
So the 3rd round he clocks him. And I was like, holy fuck, that was like a really, really hard shot. I was like, I hope he recovers. Comes out the 4th round and just got annihilated. Like, so it was upsetting because in my mind, I was like, if that was and I understand like things had changed with 3-round fight, but I was like, if that was a 3-round fight, Anderson potentially just won that fight. 5-round fight, he got knocked out in the 4th. 3-round fight, that was potentially Anderson's fight. going to the scorecards.
See, and why was it 5 round?
Because it was a main event.
Wasn't it used to be a rule that it was only 5 round, only a championship fight? The rest were 3?
I don't know if it was a rule, but when Anderson fought against Israel Adesanya, Anderson was a late replacement, and they couldn't come up with the contract fast enough to say, like, you guys have to fight 5 rounds, or couldn't come into an agreement, I guess. You guys have to fight 5 rounds, so when he fought on that card, it was kind of like, hey, we need you, but it's like, if we can't come to an agreement, it's only going to be a 3-round fight. So they only fought 3 rounds, and most people are going, oh my god, we totally wanted 5 rounds of this. Anderson could have won in the late rounds and this and that.
Right.
So when Anderson fought against Uriah Hall, they were scheduled for a fucking 5-round main event on a fight night card. No titles. So it is what it is. Can we get to your book? I gotta pee really bad actually already. I know.
So get to my book, is that what this is called?
Here, no, wait. Actually, okay. No, we'll finish this night first. Real quick. So, yeah, so the last 2 things that night, Bryce Mitchell ended up defeating Andre Fili in a very close decision that came down to the dominant wrestling Bryce had in the final round. And he also got to wear his camo shorts for the first time. He's been begging the UFC, and there's not been many times where the UFC has abided by request.
Why is he not allowed to wear camo shorts?
Because the UFC, Reebok makes the shorts for the fighters.
Well, they can't whip up
Reebok, but Venom's coming soon.
So they can't whip up a couple.
It's not the it's not the normal style.
Well, what the fuck?
So what they make for the fighters
in
is
UFC 2010 Undisputed, I can make my guy camo shorts. Why can't these guys get theirs?
Well, maybe you should be a designer and promoter.
Maybe I should be.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So Bryce Mitchell got his camo shorts finally, and he ended up edging out the decision with his wrestling against Andre Fili, which was awesome. Like, Andre Fili is a really tough fighter, and he edged out the decision with his wrestling, and it was really impressive. It was really, really impressive. And then the last fight on that was, the last 2 fights on that I was impressed about was Greg Hardy and Kevin Holland. They both got early stoppage wins, I should say, against their opponents, and looked impressive that night. So, I'm gonna leave it over to you.
And we
I'm gonna use the washroom.
And we move on to. I start my booklet with former UFC champion Ken Shamrock was in action at TNA, fought in a pay-per-view, subsequently lost. But I just couldn't believe he was still in action. He was my one of my favorites when I was growing up watching wrestling when I was a kid, and big MMA fighter and no holds bar fighter. But we're gonna go to WWE Survivor Series Trash Talkers. The first match was The Miz retaining his Money in the Bank. Team SmackDown versus Team Raw's men. Raw was AJ Styles and Matt Riddle, of course. He was a Ultimate Fighter contestant on season 11. Oh, wait, sorry. He goes by Riddle now. We got to put out Matt. Braun Strowman, Sheamus, he sucks. Keith Lee. Team SmackDown was Seth Rollins, Corbin, Otis, Jey Uso, and and Kevin Owens. Rollins, he just gets down on his knees and says, "Do what you must." He gets kicked in the head and he gets eliminated. Team Raw just whittles everyone down until it's just Uso running around for his life, and they just beat the hell out of him and win. New Day versus Street Profits. I really didn't care about this match. I'm not a fan of both, so I watched, and Street Profits win via pinfall. No belts change hands because they weren't on the line. U.S. champion Bobby Lashley versus Intercontinental champion, sorry folks, Sami Zayn. U.S. Bobby Lashley wins via submission. He chokes him out. It was kind of like I don't know what you would call it, where you put the guy up like this and, stand him up. I forget what that's called. It'll come to me when this segment's done. Raw Women's Championship, not championship match. Osaka versus Smackdown Women's Champ, Sasha Banks. Sasha defends Osaka, win pinfall. Of course, I saw this coming. A lot of people said no, she won't win. I did, because it's just the beginning of Sasha's role. When Bayley lost, she had like 395 wins over a year. Women's SmackDown Survivor Series elimination match. Raw team: Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Lacey Evans, Peyton Royce, Lana versus Team SmackDown: Bayley, Bianca Belair, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Natalya. This one, I kind of saw this one being weird because I have the WWE Network at home. Just before this Survivor Series starts, it had a Lana background story. And she was going on about being bullied online, taking all the flack from social media. A lot of people saying, sit down, you suck, go jump up. People just being clowns on social media. She took it to heart and she was emotional on this thing. During this match, the wrestlers, she was on Team Raw, they said, go stand there, you're useless. Well, guess who ended up being the sole survivor, winning the match, was Lana. I saw it coming just because I watched going. I was like, she's going to do something special tonight. She did. Roman Reigns.
Did you save anything?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Roman Reigns defeats Drew McIntyre via interference by Jey Uso.
Interference, how so? Yeah, that's what I said. Did you save anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Interference, how so?
How so? Because Jey Uso came in. Interfered in the match. He low blowed. Disqualification.
Interesting.
Something like that.
Okay, so back on the boxing side of things, though, because I missed that. So October 31st.
Still have to get to the Undertaker, man. Still got to get
all right. Well, later.
Yeah, exactly.
So October 31st, Halloween night, when we were watching Anderson Silva, there was another fight on, which was Gervonta Davis against Leo Santa Cruz. That was knockout of the fucking year, potentially. Candidate at least. Perfectly placed. He's a southpaw, so perfectly placed left uppercut. It was basically, he was looking for it, and he just went, whoo, bang! And Leo Santa Cruz just fell into the ropes, and it was one of the most satisfying things I've ever seen in my life. Gervonta Davis, Tank Davis, is an absolute fucking beast. That's what we're looking at. We move on to November.
He's one of Mayweather's boys, too.
He's one of Mayweather's boys. Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
November 7th Fight Night card was pretty exciting as well because we had Thiago Santos versus Glover Teixeira. And Thiago Santos is a guy who arguably beat John Jones in their bout that they had against each other. Myself and a lot of people think it was 2 rounds of 3 for John Jones. But when you get a fight that close with John Jones, you got argument. Oh, John Jones lost. They just want him to lose because they're like, John Jones is unstoppable. They don't want John Jones to be unstoppable, so they fucking do this, they do that.
When he passes his drug test.
Yeah, but it's like, I'm not going to say this on air. Maybe I am going to say it on air, but if fucking a guy like John Jones and every single person who ever took drugs at the greatest fairs in the world, why isn't everyone taking them?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, when I only say that is because when a lot of people were saying they placed Khabib pound for pound over John Jones, and they were saying, well, no, John Jones is pound for pound.
Oh, Habib?
Yeah.
Or
Habib?
I think GSP's over John Jones.
Well, they had it. I think. What was it? Was it
like because
someone had it? Habib.
John Jones
GSP,
has John Jones.
John
Jones has some questionable fights against guys where they're like, oh, John Jones lost against He lost against a couple fighters like Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes. He lost against Dustin. They say he lost against 3 guys, but the only time that you think about GSP is like he's won every fight that he's lost, besides his last one, which was against why am I forgetting this? Like I'm blanking out. I roided up. I had to look this up. I'm sorry, guys, but I gotta look this up again because my mind's blanking. But it's a roided up GSP versus no, I didn't even have to look it up. A GSP Johnny Hendricks versus Johnny Hendricks. So he has a roided up GSP versus Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks, and arguably it's the same thing. Like GSP got his face fucked up in the first 2 rounds, really fucking bad, and Johnny Hendricks looks untouchable the whole fight. But GSP beat him rounds 3 to 5, and people still question the fact that Johnny Hendricks was winning rounds 1 and 2, and GSP looks fucked up. So GSP must have lost that fight, but no, fucking GSP, his Matt Hughes and the other loss, can't remember what it was. GSP's avenged both losses. So GSP is technically John Jones, but with fucking, he's avenged every loss. Besides the fake loss that he lost to Johnny Hendricks in his very last fucking fight, besides Michael Bisping. So, what do you fucking think? Like, my mind's going like this, but fucking, what do you think? Like, John Jones, greatest of all time. He's technically in the prime of his career. He's lost to 3 guys. I think John Jones won all those fights.
Khabib's 29 though.
I think but Khabib's only had 4. No. Khabib's only had 4 or 5 title defenses.
So
John Jones has had fucking a dozen. GSP's had a dozen.
29.
So I can be 29-0 in fucking whatever league. So was fucking Ben Askren.
Yeah.
Ben Askren was like 18-0, and then he came over to the UFC and fucking got whooped 3 times.
So why is it discussion then? Like, why would they even think
the greatest of all time?
Yeah, why would they even think of putting Khabib over John Jones if?
Oh, because his wins.
Just because 29-0.
No, Conor McGregor.
Oh, okay.
They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about the fact Conor McGregor was arguably one of the greatest of all time. He was the first 2-time division double champ. So you got Conor McGregor, Khabib just annihilates him.
Right.
And then he fucking goes out and he annihilates every single other person he has, and then he goes, hey, I just want to retire. You start thinking, you're like, holy fuck, was this the greatest fighter of all time just to like not come back?
Just disappear off into the sunset.
But you're never gonna know. You're never gonna know. You're gonna appreciate it. You're gonna go, wow, I'm so glad.
Well,
like,
yeah, of course.
I grew up in a time that I got to watch this guy fight, but at the same time you're gonna go, like, oh fuck, like why was he so religious? Why couldn't we just had like a couple more? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like GSP versus Habib Nurmagomedov would be like fucking like something. I could fucking like, even if he didn't rematch Conor, I could be satisfied if Habib just fought.
Wouldn't GSP versus Habib be like one of the biggest MMA fights?
It would be the biggest.
Like it would have
the biggest.
Be the biggest event.
Yes.
Happened in UFC history.
Yes.
Would be those 2 guys locking horns in the middle of that cage.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be sweet.
And that's the thing. It's like he's beat Conor. I do think Conor would give him a tougher run the second time around. Very much tougher run with not drinking the week before and fucking taking shit seriously. But I do think
Conor.
I do think that Habib's the fight to make against GSP. If they can make it, and I think being 29-0 right now, fighting GSP, potentially becoming 30-0, he beats GSP, he rides off into the sunset, potentially the greatest fighter to ever live.
You said 170.
Because I still believe GSP is number 1, and if he were to beat him after GSP only 2.5 years ago beat Michael Bisping for his 185 title, I think that there's no argument that GSP would be the best in the world to ever live, I should say. And GSP would be number 2 because fucking I think fucking light heavyweight GSP would be a lot better than John Jones with his wrestling. I think in that point right now I have GSP number 1, John Jones number 2. and Habib Nurmagomedov number 3 potentially if like he's actually that good. But if fucking he comes out, he beats GSP, I would have Habib, GSP, John Jones. That would be my top 3 list right there.
Alrighty.
But
that's it.
So we move on though. Anyways, yeah. So I was the whole fucking point about that was Thiago Santos fighting John Jones. He is a big underdog. He ended up fucking getting annihilated by Glover Teixeira, and that put Glover Teixeira in line, like for Jan Blachowicz, put him in line for the next contender. As long as Israel Adesanya doesn't come up and try to like make some super fight and get a second title, Glover Teixeira is next in line. Like he fucking annihilated Thiago Santos. Way worse than John Jones could have ever imagined him doing to him. So that's the next fight to make if Israel Adesanya doesn't want to try and make history. So there was that though. And then also Andrei Arlovski defeated our highly prospected Canadian Tanner Boser in the co-main event. It was a competitive fight that went the distance.
It was the veteran versus the prospect. Yeah,
and sometimes like especially Dana with his heart on, like he likes to see the prospects prosper over any veterans who are on their way out. But this was just one of the cases that
where the veteran came out and
Andrei Arlovski
he did it. Andre the Pitbull Arlovski, is that what his name?
I don't remember what they call him.
I think that's what it is.
I don't remember if they said it, but yeah, I know likely he was, but it was just one of those cases. It just wasn't close. So it was a good fight, but it wasn't close. Andre controlled the pace the entire time, and Tanner Boser is just has some learning to do. He's got an experience gap. He's whooped a couple guys on their way up.
You were fighting Andrei Arlovski.
He's a former champion. So
former champ.
He's fighting an old champ, but he realizes I'm fighting. If I want to be a UFC champion, I'm fighting a UFC champion from about a decade ago.
Yeah.
And I have a lot to learn if I want to beat the UFC champion now
of today.
Yeah.
And you can't beat it exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a good learning opportunity for him.
Yeah.
Like an experience that no one else really. A lot of people, I guess, under those cards do get it, but for him to go home with that opportunity.
No, there's a lot.
If I lost to, Andrei Arlovski, it's him. Do you expect any different?
Yeah.
You dream of winning a fight like that, of course, but I'm no fighter, so.
So I think I watched this at your house too. I don't know if I watched it at your house or was at work that night, but November 7th, the same night of all that, I watched the boxing side of things. It was Devin Haney defeated Uriah Gamboa. Very clear decision. He looked sharp, but Gamboa was a 14-1 underdog.
I had Gamboa.
And I had Gamboa too, but it was because Devin Haney was 21 years old and Gamboa I think is 37. So there's a 16-year gap there. A few the thing is with Gamboa, 14-1 underdog. There was a lot of fucking it was a tough fight to make, but I think those odds were crazy. The fact that he had a few good moments himself and it was a fun fight to watch. But the worst part about it was watching that fight, I was not completely convinced that Devin Haney was on the level to compete with a guy with guys like Ryan Garcia, who we're just talking about, with Gervonta Davis, Teofimo Lopez. I just didn't see Devin Haney being on the level of those guys when I was watching him fight a guy who was 37 years old and really lose a couple rounds. And not stop him. I know fucking Uriah Gamboa is a tough motherfucker. Anytime he's gotten knocked down, he's gotten back up.
Right.
Like, he's a fucking animal. Like, but I just didn't see, like, Devin Haney being a real threat. He's 21 years old. He might progress, but it was not an impressive fight for me. He was sharp. He did what he needed to do to get the win, but I think he's got a lot of work to do. So that
Going
was
back to Gamboa being a tough motherfucker. Anyone like him that had to escape from Cuba, his home country, to turn pro
and swim.
Yeah, and leave his family there and create a new life. Yeah, you're another human being, my friend. Like, seriously.
Yes, and the cool thing that popped up on that was right before the fight. I think I sent you was, probably would have been 26-year-old Gamboa, maybe 27 years old Gamboa, sitting there posing in a picture with 11-year-old Devin Haney. So they were sitting there, and Devin Haney's sitting there, 11 years old. Gamboa is already professional. Like, sorry, when did Gamboa swim across? You remember?
That would have been
when did he start his professional career? Because I can't remember at the top of my head.
It's got to be 09.
09?
If I'm correct.
So we got 11 years. So he would have been about.
He would have been Team Cuba, right?
So he would have been about 20. So I think he fought in the 2008, 2012 Olympics. I don't think he fought in 2016. So it would have been 2012.
Oh, he would have been pro well before 2016.
Yeah, so it would have been 2012. He would have, like, came over likely. I think he fought in 2012. I think he won 2012. So it would have been, maybe it was 2004, 2008.
No, man.
I'm gonna search this up.
He was pro by 2011.
Was he?
100%.
Yeah, I may be missing
remember
this.
watching him.
Gamboa gold medals. Okay, so it was. Yeah, he won 2004, which is what I thought. I think it was 2008 then. Yeah, so likely it was 2004, 2008. So by the time he was a professional and fighting whatever, 2009 maybe. So 11 years ago. So Gamboa, when he was at that point, like as a professional, like inside the United States, would have been 2009, 2010. Would have been about 10 years ago. So 11 years ago, maybe like since they took the picture, 10 years ago, whatever. So yeah. Teofimo Lopez at the time he took the picture with Gamboa might have been like 11 years old.
I remember seeing a picture through wrestling. Lita, if you remember.
Could you imagine that though? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Could you imagine that? Taking a picture at 11 years old with your idol and beating the shit out of him like 10 years later?
This is like kind of similar. Like it showed an AJ Lee going up and meeting Lita crying like in a picture. And then it showed AJ being the superstar later. And then the little girl coming up and crying, meeting her. It's like the whole...
Jeez.
It's like the meme thing going on.
Wow.
Work hard, I guess.
The other thing, that night... so we had, like, early in the card, we had a couple prelims. Canadian boxer and an Olympian, Arthur Bilarshanov. He was also on the card. He scored a knockout in 30 seconds in the first round. Was too easy. Like you heard, I think Max Kellerman might have been on that card, if I remember correctly. He was an analyst, but he was talking about him or whoever it was talking about how the fighter he was fighting just literally gave up, and it was like, you don't want to see that. But all respect to him, it was like it was 30-second knockout. I think it was his 7th or 8th.
The guy just stopped fighting?
He fucking knocked him on his ass. The guy didn't want to get up, and he literally looked like he just didn't want to box with Arthur because Arthur was too good.
No mas.
But yeah, I know 30 seconds. And I remember the one thing, like I want to tell you, like I remember when this guy, he was a novice boxer. He had like 8 or 9 fights at the time. He ended up getting upgraded to the open class in Ontario, and he fought against one of my buddies. At the time, I'm not gonna mention his name, but he fought against one of my buddies, and He ended up beating him by a split decision. And my buddy had about 45 fights at that time. And Arthur Bilarshanov had 8 or 9 fights, like I just said. And he ended up winning a split decision. My buddy comes out, he's like, oh, that's bullshit. Like, it was such a close fight, this and that. Like I can't believe this guy won. And like this and now looking back on it, it's so funny how the years fly by, you know what I mean? So it's like, all of a sudden my buddy comes out telling me, oh, I can't believe this guy won. The guy turns out to be an Olympian. Like, it's crazy. But all congratulations to Arthur. I think this is a guy to look out for big time. And yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, on the Lomachenko, like, undercard, there was like that American amateur kid, 17. He only had 36 amateur.
Yeah, and that's what you were saying to me. It was like 36 and
he was only 1-0. He was facing 26-year-old.
And he didn't look that impressive though.
You know what? They gave the 17-year-old the win, and I did not see.
And that's the thing, because there's guys
didn't see that.
Guys like this, like Arthur.
The other guy pushed the fight.
Yeah.
Bring gentlemanship. Press the action. It just looked.
But the thing is, like, yeah, no, it's like, because especially like and that's the thing, like I'm not trying to plug myself again, but it's like I'm working with my coach Tim now.
Right.
And we're working on a lot of professional styles. And like when I do go out and I do spar, it's more of a professional style than it is an amateur style.
Mm-hmm.
At 17 years old, you can't like kind of like justify like what you're doing at that point, because you're still learning, man. Like at 27, almost 27 years old, I should say, like I can process what is being told to me and execute it in the way that I'm supposed to execute it. But at 17 years old, you're just going out there and fighting. It's just the way that it is. You're fighting. You just want to fight. You want to throw hands. You want to be the best. You want to be this.
And
you
earn
want to be
money
that.
at the same time.
And that's the thing. You shouldn't turn pro at 17 years old. Obviously, for Canelo.
Well, there's some anomalies.
15,
There's some guys that, like Julio Cesar Chavez Sr.
Mexicans.
Yeah.
You shouldn't turn pro.
Well, Mexicans fight their whole life.
Mexicans have to do it. Mexicans have to do it because there's not that big of an amateur situation for them. So they have to turn pro. They have to just do it. They have to fucking take a bad record. They have to do this. They have to do that. They fucking lose at the beginning of their career. It is what it is. You're a fucking child. Exactly. You're a fucking child going into fucking professional fights against grown men. But it's
I'm 16 fighting a 25-year-old tonight.
For yeah, and you lose. And then all of a sudden people go, oh, what? He has losses on his record? Yeah,
because he fought a 25-year-old man when he was a teenager.
Yeah. So
he got pummeled.
And that's the thing. It's like
no shit.
It's like the way I'm working now is like the point where I'm working on everything that I do. I'm not doing like the way I'm not fucking giving up too much because you're just gonna see it. But I'm working on not as much long distance stuff anymore.
Right.
I'm not like a marathon runner anymore. I literally do 25-minute fucking intervals, and I'm working on strength. So everything that I'm doing is explosive. So whatever I did when I was 19 years old, I grew up. Even though I wasn't boxing, I wasn't fighting, I wasn't doing this, I wasn't doing that. And I was working on jiu-jitsu and wrestling too, so that it made my legs explosive too, even though it was 4 or 5 years ago. But now, I'm working on everything is coming out of my hips. It's explosive. I'm scared for my comeback because I'm going to be a dangerous fucking man and a dangerous adult. And it's like, that's the difference between a 16-year-old turning pro and a 26, 27-year-old turning pro, is that I truly feel like I'm going to eat alive any fucking person they put in front of me in that time.
Some Tyson talk going here. Eating people alive? Alright.
I think I truly feel my comeback. I've had a couple experiences where I've gotten sparring matches in. I've never been one to slack off during conditioning, and I did doubt myself for a little while when I was trying to make a comeback, because I've never let myself just break free from the mindset of fighting, which I did for about 5 years.
It's a mindset thing.
But when I came back, I think it's gonna be like a storm, hitting every fucking opponent, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good, man. I swear to you, it's gonna be good. Like I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a big time.
And we all will be looking forward to it.
But that's what, like I said, though, that's what I said. Is like, it's the difference. I'm 26, almost 27. And I came back and I sparred. I trained. I did this. And my coach looked at me, Tim, and he said, honestly, I think you're better than when you left. And that's crazy to think, because you think you'd be worse, but just maturing as a fighter and maturing as a person. He goes, I expected you to be worse than what you are, and I was really impressed with the fact that, like, you might even be a better fighter than when you left.
Yeah. It's always the time away. Like, even me, like, I'm not as experienced, right? But, like, even, like, I took my time off. I was boxing on and off for 3 years. So even when I came back, I just felt like more crisp sparring. Like, I've been away for a while, so, you know, I'm doing better. Then the more I stay there, then I started, like, losing a little bit more, you know, getting too comfortable out there. But yeah, like,
nice.
Yeah, like I said, like, I never thought you'd be back in the boxing world. I thought you were just MMA. Then next thing you know, we're back throwing punches.
Unexpected. I'm still under 30. I'm still in my prime. So we're gonna make a run at it.
Oh, so us 30-year-olds are old men then? I'm still under 30. I'm still in my prime.
Yeah, you shouldn't do anything else in your life.
You're old.
You're washed up, pal.
And that's that.
All right, we're gonna end the podcast with on that. No, I'm just joking. Yeah. On that note. Anyways, okay, so we got to get through this, but yes. I'm
not washed up.
November 14th, Fight Night card. RDA defeated Paul Felder by decision in a Fight Night Classic. Ultimately, RDA's strength and clinch wrestling was the decisioning factor in that win over Felder, but Felder looked phenomenal. He looked in great shape. And the crazy thing that I tell you, I don't know if you knew this, because, like, it was kind of last minute, and, like, you don't watch the Fight Night cards as much, but
no.
Felder stepped in foot, Felder hadn't stepped in foot in an MMA gym for 4 months before that fight. He was training for a triathlon, and RDA was scheduled to fight another opponent in that fight, and he ended up that got dropped, and Felder was a fucking gangster and stepped into that fight 5 days notice. And was like, hey,
5 days? No.
5 days notice.
A week's notice.
Less than a week.
Well,
less than a week's notice. So
a work week.
He was training for a triathlon. Hadn't trained MMA for 4 months, so he wasn't doing any grappling. Wasn't doing any strength. He was literally just training for a triathlon, running, bike,
That's a
swimming.
warrior.
Running, bike, swimming. That's all he was doing.
That's a warrior.
And even worse, he had to cut in those 5 days. He had to cut 30 pounds. So he cut 30 fucking pounds in 5 days, stepped on the scale on weight. Any fucking excuses from any other fighter for not making weight is fucking out of the window after Paul Felder.
I was just going to say, this is another human being.
Yeah.
This is an animal.
Yeah. Paul Felder is an animal.
This is a mammal.
Yeah.
Folks. No, seriously. That's insane.
So, Paul Felder.
So, like you said, anyone who has excuses for fucking shove it.
Yeah, fucking
shove it.
Which I'm about to get at real fucking soon, but Mike Perry fucking stepping on the scale after, like, he posted fucking videos of him eating burgers and shit, and then he stepped on the scale 4.5 pounds heavy on Friday, and then fucking dabbed like this. Paul fucking Felder, dude. Like, come on. Like, fucking get your act up, alright?
Yeah. Smart enough. You're a professional.
Yeah, Paul Felder's an absolute fucking savage. Besides that, Chaos Williams scored a devastating one-punch knockout in 30 seconds in the first round over Al Hassan in the co-main event. On the boxing side of things, Terrence Crawford defeated Kell Brook by a 4th round knockout, TKO. He started a little slow, but once his rhythm got going and his timing, he was just way too much for Kell Brook to handle.
Bullied him.
No, it was absolutely bully fest. Like, there was nothing that Kell Brook could have done in that fight to win that fight. Like, Terrence Crawford was just way too much. Way too much.
Just overwhelmed him. From start to finish.
No, not start to finish, because the first 2 rounds, Kell Brook was potentially won. It was very close, but Terrence Crawford was basically just starting slow for 2 rounds. Same thing as Lomachenko, but he actually picked it up. So 2 rounds, he was sitting there figuring them out. Kell Brook was doing a decent work. 3rd round came around, you're like, okay, this is starting to really turn. And the 4th round was just fucking absolutely annihilating him. It was not even close and fucking hurting him really bad. But, okay, so this past weekend, November 21st, like I said, I wasn't too excited for this card after all the changes that happened, but it was pay-per-view, and it happened. So we watched it, but it was not something that I was like particularly real amused with. But it got exciting. It was like the card itself. Prelims, early prelims, main card, everything about it was just really, really tough to call. Like, I think Dana White had a lot of trouble with the bonuses, I can imagine, like, because like every fight was like fight of the night. Even right off the bat, like the first round of the first fight, I was sitting there going like, holy fuck, like this sets the stage for the rest of the card. I really hope everybody lives up, because like fucking nobody's gonna get a bonus after this shit. But nevertheless, before the card, I did not plan a podcast, because in all honesty, I was not going to buy that card. I watched it fucking on a stream. I was not going to buy a card like that, like with Devin Figueiredo versus Alex Perez, and I knew Alex Perez was gonna lose badly at the start of the first or the second round. So it just made no sense to buy a pay-per-view on something that you knew what was going to happen. So did not plan for it. So Alex Perez anyways, yeah, no, I ended up winning because I bet I think it was $11.80 on Devin Figueiredo by first round submission. I ended up winning $120 off that fight alone. Alex Perez moves on. Fucking Devin Figueiredo, absolute fucking gangster, bro. He walks out there next morning, decides, hey, you know what? I'm just going to stay on Fight Island, and 3 weeks from now, after my quarantine, I'm just going to go out and fight against Brandon Moreno, who's one of the most dangerous fucking number 1 contenders like in that division you could possibly ask for. I'm just going to fight him 3 weeks later. So Brandon Moreno, fucking gangster as well. Hey, I just want to fight that same night. I'm going to go out there and fight the fucking title contender 3 weeks later too. Fucking gangster division. Anybody who says the 125-pound division is fucking dead, come on. That is a fucking gangster move by both of them. The number 1 contender and the champion are absolute savages. And if you don't think so, watch that fight night. Devin Figueiredo, this is his second pay-per-view he's going to be headlining. Not even just attending. He's going to be headlining his second pay-per-view in a row. That's unheard of. I don't know. Like, maybe Conor McGregor did it. Maybe not, because you need so many weeks to promote a Conor McGregor fight. And I know Fight Island, COVID-19, whatever restrictions are a little different. But is this the first fighter to headline 2 pay-per-views in a row? I don't know. And maybe you won't headline it. Maybe they'll come up with a different headliner.
Has
but
GSP ever done it?
I don't remember. And that's the thing. GSP could have done it, but it's just like a lot of the time it's like...
Ronda Rousey?
I don't think Ronda Rousey did it.
No?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But it's like... You got these guys fighting. Like... So... I wouldn't be surprised if Dana White found another main event. But at the same time, right now, Dustin Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno are the main event for a pay-per-view card again. So that'd be 2 in a row. And that's pretty fucking crazy to me. 2 in a row in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
So I hope he's getting paid well. What I wanted to tell you, yes, so Cody Garbrandt was injured and taken off this main event originally off of a bicep injury. So he wins that fight, books another title. Accepts it 3 weeks later. Exciting news. But Cody Garbrandt, anyways, so he... What you didn't know, because he just posted something, and I kind of want to bring it up. Like, actually on his post that I seen. From Bloody Elbow. So the reason Cody Garbrandt said that he was out of that fight was because of a bicep injury, but the initial reason, removal back in October, was a torn bicep. But recently he revealed he had come down with COVID-19, which had kept him out of the gym for a month and a half, but that didn't seem like an ongoing issue. And they had said themselves, just need another young man shrugging it off, I guess. So unfortunately, Garbrandt is revealing what sounds like a more serious complication from the illness. So he said Figueiredo versus Moreno booked for 256, 21 days from now. Disclaimer from his last post said he was positive for COVID-19 on August 29th. Garbrandt wrote in an Instagram story, "Since then I have been battling vertigo, tore my bicep, which resulted in finding out I have blood clots, mental fog, and these are the symptoms I've been dealing with, and the reason I pulled out of the fight. I haven't done any media, but I'd like to address it on my own terms." So COVID-19 was the reason he pulled out of the fight. Upsetting, but it is what it is.
We hope for the best for his quick recovery. I'm going to be right back.
Okay. So the only other things that I got here, I'm going to time you opening the door, but Mike Perry. Yeah, actually, I'm going to wait till you open the door. But Mike Perry missed weight 4.5 pounds. So, Mike Perry missed weight 4.5 pounds. The thing that doesn't sit well with me on that is, like, Mike Perry was eating fucking junk food the week before, sending pictures to Tim Means. He got on scale. He knew he was overweight. He sat there and he fucking dabbed on the scale like a fucking asshole. He just had no remorse for what he was doing on that scale, which I think was horrendous and disrespectful. He ended up forfeiting 30% of his purse, and then he lost 2 rounds to 1 to Tim Means. First round, he almost submitted Tim Means. He surprisingly was switching back and forth between each arm he was using for a rear naked choke, which neither of them ended up landing. On the co-main event, which I missed, Valentina Shevchenko, she ended up winning a fairly unusual fight. She was going to the ground quite a bit against Jennifer Maia. She was using a lot of her wrestling. It didn't come quite as easy as it usually does to her, which was a surprise for the fans, but ultimately 4th and 5th round she started picking her apart with her kickboxing on her feet, and she actually did lose a round to Jennifer Maia. I think it was round 2. So that round we were all a little surprised about, but ultimately Valentina Shevchenko just did what Valentina Shevchenko does, and it was a dominant performance, almost start to finish. Lower on that card, Caitlin Chikagian defeated Cynthia Cavillo by decision. And Paul Craig also defeated Mauricio Arua by second round stoppage on the main card as well. On the undercard, Buckley, who just had the viral spinning heel kick last month against Impa, he ended up scoring another big second round KO over Jordan Wright, which was a good start to kick up his career, and I am excited for the next fights that they have for him. On November 21st, on the boxing side of things, we're filming on the 23rd. Oh, Seth's back in the room, so we're gonna let him get in to the door, and then we'll talk about this because I'm excited for this myself. So on November 21st, on the boxing side of things, we had after a 5-year layoff, Josh Wagner is back.
Sorry, folks. I had to apologize for me stepping in.
While I was
Josh Wagner is back.
While I was in the middle of my sentence.
Josh Wagner is back.
Okay, on November 21st, on the boxing side of things, after a 5-year layoff, Josh Wagner's back. He took on, I can't remember what his name is. Raphael, I can't pronounce this actually. Raphael Korsheshna of Quebec. He beat him by a decision. But it was his biggest test of his career. Josh Wagner offered 5 years. 5 years off. He was 8-0 at the time when they fought. Josh was 6-0. Raphael had a lot of big wins over highly competitive fighters. So Josh to come back and fight against him, it was a very, very tough fight, especially for a layoff. And he ended up beating him, biggest test to date. And there's big things for Josh in the future, like the near future. Especially, it takes a lot of balls, like especially during COVID-19, to come back and fight a guy of that caliber and have so much confidence in yourself that you're able to come out with a win. So if you're able to do that, you got a lot of big things in your future. So congratulations to Josh Wagner. Ontario's proud of you.
And best of luck moving forward.
Yeah. November 28th, moving on from November 21st weekend, we've got another fight night preview. Actually, sorry, this is the first preview we've got. So it's going to be Curtis Blades versus the Black Beast, Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis, in my opinion, has struggled against a lot of the strong wrestlers that he's faced against. Daniel Cormier being an example when Daniel Cormier was the champion. He's just had a lot of tough tests against wrestlers where he kind of relies on his big one-punch power to win him fights. So he's fighting against Curtis Blades, who is a strong wrestler. And in my opinion, I think that Blades is going to be likely to control the pace of that fight. And whether it be a stoppage, whether it be a decision, I just think that Derek's going to be on his back a lot of the time that we're watching that fight. Besides that, on that fight, we've got Anthony Smith on the main card as well. He hopes to break a long losing streak that he's been on, where he's been shut out completely 5-0 on his last 2 scorecards by multiple judges. He'll be fighting Devin Clark, and he hopes to break out of that rut he's been in. And on the undercard, we've got some fireworks on this one because we've got Canada's Malcolm Gordon fighting again, back in action. And I hope I don't butcher this name, but he's fighting against Sue Murderegi, who's 12-4, and I think Malcolm's 12-4 as well. So they've got they've got a big fight on their hands for that. I think the UFC has Malcolm as a 3.5 to 1 underdog after his submission loss to the last guy he fought. I can't remember what his name is. Samir Albazi, I think it is. and he's actually fighting on that exact same card. Or the fight after Malcolm Gordon. Amir Albazi, not Samir. Amir Albazi. He's fighting on it just above Malcolm Gordon, but I think a lot of people are taking that fight as too much of a serious look, because Malcolm Gordon got submitted by a triangle choke as well in that fight, and I just don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think Malcolm. I think he was up in a weight class that he shouldn't have been in during that fight, and I think he's gonna come down for this one, and I think we're gonna see a much different fight. You're gonna see the what he can actually do. But besides that, yeah, Spike Carlisle, who was the craziest motherfucker I've ever seen step in the octagon in my life. I didn't know who this guy was about 6 months ago, and he fought in front of me with his bright red hair coming in, and just being the biggest weirdo I've ever seen fighting on any card ever. And I think it was like 10 seconds left in the round where he just decided to stop fighting and walked away from the guy, and the guy tried to knock him out from behind. And it was just like this, like you're sitting there, you're going like, this guy is like kind of awesome, but at the same time, this guy's a fucking nutcase. So Spike Carlisle, the only reason I'm bringing him up is because like I fucking loved watching him fight that night. And I think he's the first fight of the night on this same card next weekend. But he's fighting against an absolute fucking animal, Bill Algeo. He's fighting against him, and it's going to be a tough fight. And Spike might just get his ass kicked, but at the same time, I'm just looking forward to like watching like what happens. So that's the undercard for that. Take a break for 2 seconds. I'm gonna get a drink in me.
You need to refuel.
My lips have been flapping a little too much.
He's got to get the twisted side into him. Continue.
So, on the boxing, we just talked about like November 28th, the UFC card on the boxing side of things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is what you've been waiting for.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Iron Mike Tyson.
Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man.
Versus Roy Jones Jr.
Captain Hook.
Y'all must have forgot. Forgot.
The Captain Hook, Roy Jones, versus the baddest man, Iron Mike Tyson.
So, like, the biggest thing about this is, like,
go.
we've already brought, like, episode number 2 or episode number 3, they were supposed to fight. We've already broken down their careers. We've already broken down the fact of what we thought about them. So, honestly, before this exhibition got postponed, like, it was for me, it was a little more exciting, the fact that it was so spontaneous. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, here we go. Fucking a month and a half away. We're getting Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson.
But then,
boom. It got postponed November. I feel like, even though they're trying to get... The worst thing is they're trying to get more sales. And they probably will.
That's just it.
They probably will.
It's a marketing thing.
But they probably will. But the fact...
They will.
Like, a week ago, or maybe... one of the I don't even know what his position is, but one of the guys who's in charge of the promotion said that he doesn't they prohibited them from knocking each other out. Like, how bad do you think that is for pay-per-view sales?
They prohibit each other from knocking each other out.
And Dana White said, how the fuck can you enforce that? Dana White was the first to say something. How the fuck can you enforce that?
Well, if they want to prohibit each other from knocking each other out, go contact the WWE and you schedule that there, and they'll make sure of it.
How does the WWE control that?
What do you think?
Money?
What? 2 wrestlers knocking each other out?
Yeah. How does the WWE control the fact that people listen to them and fake it.
Well, it's not really faking it to an extent.
It is.
It's predetermined. That's just it. It's predetermined.
Well, it's not.
But the thing is, Tyson, you have to work.
No, wait. Sorry. I know you want to explain that, but Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. is not predetermined. They just don't want them to knock each other out.
So how the fuck do you do that?
Exactly. You can't enforce it.
So Mike Tyson gets punched in the face by Roy Jones, and he
gets
fucking
angry
loses it
and starts throwing
and
haymakers.
starts swinging it, or Roy Jones just starts jabbing his fucking.
You can't enforce it.
You can't enforce that.
No.
That's what I mean.
What they
it's
want,
a different realm between.
But what I was saying was pay-per-view numbers went down incredibly after that idiot fucking announced that. Let them fucking fight. Like, you're scared about two fucking 50-year-olds hurting each other?
I wouldn't want to watch it, actually.
You're scared about two 50-year-olds hurting each other?
They're not scared about hurting each other.
No, they're not. They're not. They'd like to fucking die that way.
Yeah.
That's who you're fucking dealing with while you're sitting there in your fucking business suit with your tie on.
You're dealing with savages. You're not going to sit there and tell a Mike Tyson.
No.
Hey, you can't knock no one out. It's how he won most. He's a knockout artist. You're not going to sit there and tell a Roy Jones, keep it in you.
Hey, Mike Tyson, can you just pretend fucking like box for 8 rounds? Because Mike did not ever do that.
No. He couldn't get to the 8th round.
Anyway, so basically on that, that was postponed November 28th. We got that going on. My prediction is a 6th round TKO in favor of Roy Jones Jr. taking out the former baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson. What's your prediction?
I've said this in the previous show. I took round 4 for Tyson.
Knockout or TKO?
TKO. But I might bump it up to a 5.
Why is
give
that?
Jones a little extra.
A little extra time to what? The longer that fight goes on, the better it gets for Jones.
Well, if I cut it any shorter, it's not going to happen.
Why?
Well, a puncher's always got a chance. That's the thing.
Roy Tyson?
No, Tyson. He could just throw and land, and Roy goes down.
Why not
just
round
doesn't
1?
Get up. No, I'm not going round 1. Come on. If Roy Jones runs at Tyson round 1, I'll be surprised. If he engages Tyson in round 1, I'll be surprised. Because Tyson is built off of early round success, man.
You know I'm coming over to your house.
He beats. I know. Yeah. He beats. Tyson usually finishes guys within 4 rounds in his prime. So yeah, no.
That's what I was saying. Why 5th?
I'm just going to beat you to that. I retract that. I'm going to stick with my earlier predictions with round 4 technical knockout. Mike Tyson wins over Roy Jones Jr.
So you think a Mike Tyson at 54 years old can still last 4 rounds that he did in his prime?
The way he's training, I would hope so. We'll wait and see. I'm just taking it. And I saw your comments on Facebook earlier today, like saying, yeah, you are right. Social media and sports is playing into Tyson showing the training regimen videos, best man on the planet. They are playing into that. He is like our Ali. You know what I mean? Like, he is like...
Yeah.
Like, this fight, no offense to any of the pro boxers right now, but this fight is pretty much overtaken any Lomachenko versus Lopez. It's Tyson versus fucking Roy Jones. If
it was the same night, that'd be
it would.
That'd be questionable.
But this is 2 big names going at it. Everyone's like, "Oh, they're going to break a hip." Yeah. They're not going to break a hip.
It's not as big as I thought it was going to be, though.
What, this fight?
Yeah.
Because it's been pushed off. That's why.
Yeah.
They needed to get it done.
Yeah.
Now it's becoming we need to make more money on this shit now.
It dragged on.
How do we make more money on this? For fuck's sakes.
So, anyways, yeah, that night again. Anyways, the rest of the card I don't give a fuck about. Like,
Jake Paul, motherfucker.
I was about to say, I predict I will not be turning on the television until the Jake Paul
Tyson versus...
the co-main event, Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson, is off. I will be predicting I will not be on for that. And I will also predict that I will be watching the fight on mute at this point, because I will not be watching fucking Israel Adesanya side by side with Sugar Ray Leonard and Al Bernstein. I think that Israel Adesanya is the type of person to get overexcited so everyone else can hear him. And when something good happens, it just ends up being annoying and less enjoyable. So, I not sure whose brilliant idea was that, but I won't be listening to Israel Adesanya talk. I will be putting that on mute. I don't care if I'm at your house. I'm fucking putting that at mute. Because I don't want to fucking hear Israel Adesanya go. Every time that Mike Tyson or every time Roy Jones Jr. lands a punch, him as an analyst going, "Ooh!"
Yeah, I don't see who would think of putting Jake Paul on a fucking Mike Tyson and Roy Jones card is a good idea either, but...
Yeah, no, it's fucking hysterical, like the way that
Legends
this whole thing
card.
is set up.
What fucking...
Yeah.
Who's he even fighting Jake
Legends
Paul?
only.
Legends only, yeah. Yeah. The only legends are Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson.
Well, Badou Jack.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Who's he fighting?
Nate Robinson.
Who's that?
I think he's in another sport. I gotta check.
Oh, no. Yo, he's a basketball player.
Basketball?
That's right, yeah. Who cares?
Yeah.
That's a clown act.
Yeah, I don't know. And
like,
they got these highlight videos of
they should have had legitimate fucking fights.
Beating up guys with less than fucking 10 fights. And he's sitting there fucking like lighting people up and shit. And they're either paid actors or they're guys who like literally have no fight experience at all.
Is Charlie Z on any of them?
I wish he was getting his ass kicked, but I don't know.
Next you know, Charlie. No, I won't give him that benefit of the doubt, actually.
But
that'd be the weakest fight in history, Jake Paul versus Charlie Z. It would never go anywhere.
Yeah.
We'd be someone hit someone.
Yeah.
That's what it'd be.
So that
Skater Boy versus Crackhead.
We got December 5th following that. So a cool one that like Kevin Holland has been on an absolute roll lately, and he's fighting against a tough man. Jack Hermanson. They're in the main event for December 5th. And that's one, actually, the only one of the night that we're talking about right now. I'm not going to predict that. I'm making no prediction on that at all.
No prediction.
Zero prediction.
Zero prediction.
I think Kevin Holland's on a roll, but Jack Hermanson is an absolute beast, and I don't want to predict that because I'm just so excited to watch that fight. Like, that fight alone, maybe the card, I haven't looked at the card too much itself, but I don't know how great it is. But as far as the main event itself, I don't care to predict that fight because I just want to watch it with no biased opinion.
And no stress whatsoever.
Yeah.
That means your ass better not bet on that fight. No stresses.
I might bet on Kevin Holland. Just because I feel like Kevin Holland might be an underdog for some parts of the fight. But like Jack and Kevin are like, that's such a hot fight, man. There's a lot of heat there and it's going to be good. On the boxing side of things that night, we got Errol Spence Jr. set off to face Danny Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
And I predict Errol Spence Jr. will be just simply too much for him. I think Danny Garcia is going to come out hard. He's going to come out tough. He's always going to have that grit that he does.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Errol Spence Jr., his boxing skills just too much. I think they're always talking about Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. They're talking about who's the greatest in the world right now. And Danny Garcia is just not in that conversation.
You know what?
So,
and I got to side with Errol Spence on this one. And I'm not
against Terrence Crawford? Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's close. Like, they're fucking animals, man. Like those two. Like there's
Spence.
Floyd Mayweather.
Spence.
Yeah, there's Floyd Mayweather still kicking around a little bit, but as far as like
do you
prime,
think he's actually going to come back and have a legitimate like
against who though? He's beat everyone.
Yeah, so like you say, Floyd Mayweather's floating around. No, is he? He's not active. His last fight was against McGregor. Sorry, Mayweather versus Mayweather.
No, I didn't say he was active. I said he was floating.
Floating.
Yeah.
Like floating around. Like no
Yeah,
one's trying to fight Mayweather.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone understands
he had the
retired.
McGregor fight. He fought Tension.
Yeah, Tension.
That little Asian like
that
exhibition.
He whooped it within
1 minute.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of fights there, but I just don't know if he cares. I honestly think he still would beat the best fighters in the world.
He probably could.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he couldn't. I'm just saying, is anybody like saying I want to fight Mayweather? Like no one's like.
No, I think they've moved past him. I do think they moved past him.
Like it would be Mayweather going to these young bucks saying I can beat you. And a young buck saying, "Yeah, okay, let's go."
I'd like to see Canelo versus Mayweather too. Canelo fought him when he was 21 years old, I think.
Compared to now, do you think it would be different?
Yeah, it would.
Canelo winning? Would you go that far?
No, I wouldn't. But Canelo is a lot older and a lot more mature. He was like 21 when he fought Mayweather. And for Canelo to go out and fight Mayweather now, it's a matured Canelo against a seasoned Mayweather in his 40s.
Thing is, with Canelo, he's fought a lot of fucking great fighters.
He beat GGG. We know that happened.
Yep.
A lot of people like to complain.
Watched it.
A lot of people like to complain about that, but GGG lost that second fight easily. It was close. It was another 7-round-to-5 fight. You remember that?
Yep.
It was another first fight. Arguably, it was a draw. I had it a draw. It arguably could have been GGG win, but it was a draw. And the second fight, Canelo won that fight decisively. I think it was a close fight as far as like the rounds, but as far as like what happened within those rounds, Canelo won that fight.
Right. So
people can complain all they want, but Canelo won that fight against GGG, one of the greatest fighters like around right now, and that's huge for growth, to fight a fighter that big and to win. So I think like him to fight Mayweather would be different, but at the same time Mayweather is just too smart. Like the way that I think it was Andre Berto, or who was it? Somebody explained them fighting Mayweather. And they're like, to fight him, you watch him thinking in the ring. You'll watch him look up at the clock. You'll watch him watch your movement. You'll watch him doing everything. Every single movement he makes is a mathematical.
Mathematical.
That's what I was saying, but I can't like spit it out. Mathematical calculation.
The easiest way for me, myself, my opinion, and I'm not bashing, is Mayweather is a lawyer fighter.
What's a lawyer fighter?
He throws when he knows he can land.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Why lawyer?
A lawyer, because a lawyer's smart.
Okay.
You gotta be smart to be a lawyer. You have a game plan going into a court battle. You have a game plan going into a fight. You think so. But like Mike Tyson said, this contradicts what I'm saying. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, which is true, right? You get that one and you don't even remember. But a lawyer fighter is just something to me that is Mayweather. It's just the style. Like, you're smart. You can read everything. You know what's coming. Look up at the clock, like you were saying. That's a lawyer fighter.
Well, that's the thing. I think it was on your...
He knows when he can counter and get away with it. It's a lawyer fighter. You're not going to spend punches. You're not going to spend time lipping off as a lawyer. You're going to get in there and, like... Yeah. Mayweather goes, okay, I can throw some punches. Boom, 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 boom,
so
boom.
he goes, and he's sitting there, he's pulling his Philly, pulling his Philly shell. But yeah, no, it was like the whole time, like they were saying, like, yeah, Mayweather is like, you watch him think in his head, and he doesn't like expend any energy he doesn't need to, and it's the scariest part about fighting him is he just knows what he's doing. Like, he just does not brawl you. He doesn't fight you like he needs to fight you. He just calculates you the whole time.
That's what one of my favorite things about him was against McGregor.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, wow, McGregor's out working him. And then you look at McGregor. You look over Mayweather, he's like smiling, laughing with his buddies, having good times.
They use the washroom. I'm gonna let you finish off most of your topics.
All right.
And then I'll get to December 12th. After that, let me squeeze by you though.
This is beyond the notebook. Now I'm looking over at these papers, but this is something I think should never happen into, well, any business, trash talkers. And this is Cody Rhodes gets his surname back from the WWE. So he's about a third generation superstar. Dustin Reynolds, aka Goldust. Dusty Rhodes, son of a plumber, baby! He's the dad. Well, WWE has owned the last name Rhodes for many years. Just recently, Rhodes won in a court battle, WWE gave it up. Pretty much saying, okay, you can have it. So now he can go, instead of Cody, he can go by Cody Rhodes now. His last name is now legal, he can use. To me, I just feel WWE is pretty much political stuff. Like politics, man. Like, that's just crazy. I already talked about Survivor Series. I'm going to talk about next is The Undertaker retirement. Yesterday it was the 22nd, and 30 years ago yesterday, The Undertaker debuted November 22nd, 1990. I was about 2 months old when he debuted. No, I wasn't watching. Of course not. I didn't know what the hell wrestling was back then. Or boxing, whatever the fuck. But anyways, yesterday, 30 years later, The Undertaker, after a storied career, has called it quits. A lot of legends came out. Ric Flair being involved. A Godwin. A lot of folks. There was also a very touching moment, I would say. Paul Bear, his little sidekick, his manager throughout many years. He passed away a couple of years back, and he wasn't able to make it, so they had a hologram with him there. The Undertaker gave a speech saying, "Now's my time to let the Undertaker rest in peace." And my research after the event is Vince McMahon does not have any plans to bring back the Undertaker in any further episodes of wrestling, which we covered last show. Undertaker will come back as the dead man. Other than that, The Undertaker has retired after 30 years. Like I said, I want to say this now that you're back. To me, The Undertaker is probably, and he's been over many times watching the WWE Network, saying, how does a guy get famous like that over, like, a gimmick, like an Undertaker gimmick? How does a guy get, like, people react like that? He is probably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Maybe two people I'd put in front of The Undertaker is probably Hulk Hogan or The Rock. The Rock,
100%.
The Rock, why I say The Rock is what he's done outside of wrestling.
Yeah, The Rock is fucking...
He's gotten bigger than wrestling. He's in movies. The Rock is probably like one of the greatest entertainers of all time, actually, is The Rock.
Yeah.
Next on the list is... So the WWE has ordered superstars to delete their like second social media or third social media accounts. That means things such as Twitch accounts, things like that. Not Twitters or Facebooks or Instagrams, nothing like that. But Twitch, the different ones. Well, Selena Vega, she decides when the WWE puts that rule out there, Selena Vega opens an OnlyFans account just after WWE makes that ruling. Shut down. After.
Wow.
She opens it. Guess what happens? Bye-bye. So, they fire her over that. Now she's in talks with, like, no, it's not COVID. Nothing to do with COVID. But she has talks with the Labor Board over it now. And, like,
I'm sorry, brother. I'm sneezing way too hard right now. Go on. What?
Yeah, that was about it.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So she has an OnlyFans account. You're subscribed to it and what?
No. Supposedly, I guess it's not much different than her Instagram account. It's just... But what she claimed was she's earned more money from Twitch accounts and OnlyFans.
What is Twitch? What is Twitch?
I don't know. More money from that than WWE. So unless they're underpaying their girls...
What? No way.
No, that's what she claims. She's made more money from these side social media accounts than WWE. The leading... So that's what I want to know. Where the fuck... Like, how much money you paying your chicks?
Yeah, Twitch. Like, how's Twitch make that much money? Because WWE themselves, like... I gotta say, like...
Well, you gotta think. Like, fucking depends on who you are there, man.
Okay. That was like 11 sneezes, so I really hope it's over by now, but okay. Yeah, no, Twitch themselves, I don't know anything about Twitch. I know they got a lot of, I know they got a lot of they got a lot of gamers on there, and I think
okay.
Can you just fuck right off, brother? Okay, so they got a lot of gamer accounts on there, and the gamer accounts, like, I assume they make a decent amount of podcast ruined. They got a lot of gamer accounts on Twitch, and like a lot of the gamer accounts, podcasts, whatever, they go really well, and I figure they made a lot of money off that crap. So,
maybe it was what's her name? Selena's a gamer.
Well, she's on Twitch. She could be a gamer. She
probably is.
But if she's on OnlyFans, like, oh fuck, man, like, it depends. Like, how much fucking, like, okay, how famous is she in the wrestling community?
Pretty famous.
So yeah. She would make a lot of fucking... And that's the thing. For me, I'm thinking myself. I'm like, fuck, bro. I'm like, not broke, but I'm like broke compared to Zelina. And it's like, if I had the opportunity to just fucking jerk off on cam and make a fucking $1 million in a year... Like, fucking right, I'd be there. Like, come on. Like, I'd be sitting there back, like, just fucking spanking the monkey. I like, really? Like, would you not do the same? If you were offered $1 million to wank off for all your fans, would you not do the same?
You know what? That's not even the extent of what she does.
What?
Like, no, like, that doesn't even make...
OnlyFans.
Like I said before, you brought all that up. Like, hers isn't... Her OnlyFans is pretty much the same as her Instagram.
What? It's barely even... It's not even nudes?
I guess not.
And they fired her over it.
You can't... Like they said, they made they made the company policy. You can't have, like, secondary... Like, you could have your...
WWE. Why'd she make that afterwards? Just to make extra money?
Because she was... standing up for unionization within wrestling.
Okay.
Unionization.
Who is their union?
the wrestlers as a union, not being owned by a company, which WWE is trying to do.
Yeah.
So they think WWE noticed that in her and decided, okay, she just disobeyed us, which she did.
Yep.
But the thing is, like, everyone has her back because she stood up for herself.
Well, they make the rules, though.
They do make the rules.
How much was she? You said she wasn't getting paid much, but fucking you go over and you watch people
says
getting paid millions.
She's made more money off of Twitch and other these YouTubes and other than the WWE I find that
that's what Paige Van Zandt said about the UFC.
True, that is true.
But I believed that because the UFC would not have paid Paige Van Zandt for getting kind of whooped. No offense. In her last
maybe
fights.
Zelina wasn't being paid
but
as
Zelina,
much as
or Paige Van Zandt, if she was getting whooped like that on an undercard, would have been making maybe $50,000 a fight plus sponsors. She goes to the UFC, she goes to WWE, she's making $1 million. So yes, obviously.
Well, that's a lot of people.
A lot more money because people want to see that like. A lot
of women wrestlers got mad about Ronda Rousey coming over.
Yeah, and Ronda Rousey
because she main evented automatically.
And I fucking a lot of males, including myself, got mad about Ronda Rousey making a fucking cameo in Fast and the Furious, acting like some hotshot, where she was going. Sorry, it was Letty going. How does that go exactly? Letty going. Showing up in the room and Ronda Rousey realizing she has to fight Letty, and her going in her dress.
You showed me this video. Let's go or something.
No, it was. I was wondering when you were gonna show up, and then. Oh God.
You know what? It was pretty much like that in wrestling when Ronda Rousey showed up in the ring. It was Triple H and Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah, because she's a fucking idiot.
She just, Ronda Rousey like this. And then, exactly. And then Triple H and Stephanie McMahon is like this. Ronda, calm. And like she's like the most dangerous person in the world. Like, calm down. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, calm down.
So she gets like
you got your ass beat by Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes. So
actually, that is like I watched that fight recently, like maybe 2 weekends ago, and it was when Holly Holm kicked her in the fucking head, and she looked like she died.
Yeah,
she looked like she died. And then just slammed her I was like, just fucking done. She just went limp.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
that was amazing. Anyway, so moving on real quick, we got the last 2 UFC cards of the year. They're jaw-dropping incredible. So we've got on December 12th, which is UFC 256, which we are technically covering right now because we will not be back until January. This is the card that we're predicting, and this is the big thing about our whole thing, even though there's so much to cover. And
we've covered.
Of course, many changes are probably going to come in about a month to this card, but for right now, it is hot. It is on fire. It is exactly what you want to see, and we are looking forward to it so much. But with that in mind, when I say things are changing that quickly, 4 hours before I wrote this script, as I was writing this script, I looked it up, and 4 hours before I was writing this script, Peter Yan against Aljamain Sterling was scrapped from the card. And they were the main event of the card. They were scrapped from the card because...
How does the main event get scrapped from the card?
Peter Yan, personal reasons. And
COVID? Was it the vid?
The vid.
Let's be honest here.
I don't know. But no, Peter Yan versus Sterling was scrapped from the card, so they got pushed back to a later date. Personal reasons on Yan's end.
Okay.
And that's the crazy thing. So it's like, boom, all of a sudden that got scrapped.
Well, hopefully everything's alright on Peter Yan's end.
Yeah, so Devin Figueiredo will now headline against Brandon Moreno, which I mentioned was 3 weeks. They took the morning of, right after.
You mentioned
3
that.
weeks later. So crazy part is, like I said, it's like the card is still amazing, but it's crazy the fact that Peter Yan versus Sterling, like I said, anything could be canceled like that within a couple weeks or few weeks, until the card happens. Like, it's like that just happened 4 hours before I was writing the script. So that happened.
Just shows it's ever forever changing the MMA mixed martial arts world.
Yeah, and
stay tuned.
So we got the co-main event. Marvin Vettori set to face Ronaldo Souza. Junior Dos Santos is set to face Ciryl Gane. We've got Ben Askren's son, Chase Hooper, is on the card to face Peter Barnett. We've got Canadian Gavin Tucker set to face a very, very tough competitor, Billy Corntillo. Cub Swanson is back to face Daniel Pineda. And then Ronaldo Moisano is set to face Rafael Fizez. There's a couple fights more on that card. There's much more on that card. So, yeah. Did you talk about Charlie? I'm getting sick of his shit, I'm not gonna lie.
I've not much to learn from the Charlie. So blocked,
Yep.
I just don't see how he pulls it off, really. Really don't.
Pulls what off?
Like, how he gets onto these champions' skins to where they go. Like, Deontay Wilder, yeah, I'm going to knock this fucking guy out. Then he goes, I won. Look up the video. It's on TMZ. I could, we all know Charlie Z's a royal ass wipe. We all know that. And he's not a boxer, he's not a fighter, just like some people that think they're boxing coaches that coach at local boxing gyms.
Like who?
Like some folks. But anyways.
Like who?
Some people here. I'm
Me?
just joking.
Me?
Me.
Oh, okay.
As the Elvis Karate. No,
what karate?
What karate?
Huh.
Swan State karate.
Okay.
Indian shawarma karate.
You're a fan of Elvis?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
No. Okay.
Listen to his music a couple times. But, actually, I gotta head out for a second there.
You gotta use the washroom?
Yeah, use the washroom.
Okay.
Right, man.
Okay, he's gonna use that, and I'm going to cover...
Let him cover it up.
December 19th's card. Because December 19th is huge. It's a free fight night card, and it is huge. Absolutely huge. All right. Let's get to it. December 19th. I tell you, folks, this is free. This is a free card. There is no pay-per-view for this. This is free. It's better than December 12th. Way better than December 12th, which is a pay-per-view. This card is free. Dana White is handing us gifts out. Dana White is Santa Claus. This is the greatest card that you could possibly ask for, especially if you're a fight fan who knows exactly what's going on in the fight community. This is more than you could ever ask for in your life. Leon Edwards, ranked number 3. He accepted a challenge against now the number 15 Khamzat Chimaev, who pretty much has looked unstoppable in his last few fights. The 2 first fights he had in the UFC, he was 296-1. Significant strikes thrown or landed. I can't remember the exact stat for that, but it was big. He had 1 punch landed against him for the 296 that he landed against his opponents. It was huge. His next fight, he fought against Gerald Meerschaert. And his fight with Gerald Meerschaert, I'll be the first to say it, I was so skeptical about the entire situation. I was like, okay, here we go. He fought a couple fighters. John Phillips fought against another guy. It's no big deal. Like, those guys should have lost to him pretty badly. But then he goes out and fights an absolute veteran like Gerald Meerschaert, who is still doing well in the UFC, and he one punches him. He goes out, he takes a right hand, straight right hand, and cleans him out. Gerald Meerschaert, I did not expect that to happen. He was truly tested in that fight, and he ended up derailing any of the fact that I thought he was just a complete hype train, like Sugar Sean O'Malley, who ended up getting whooped. And I think he's got big things in the future, but his next fight he's got against Leon Edwards, and Leon Edwards is ranked number 3 in the world and on a absolute crazy winning streak. So against Leon Edwards, I'm going to say it right now, and I'm probably, or maybe, or whatever, going to regret it, but I say again, I predict Leon Edwards is too big of a step up for Khamzat Chimaev. I think he's going to get exposed. I think he's going to have to go back to the drawing board, and I think he's going to have to improve for his next fight and step up and figure out how he's going to break the top 5. I just don't think that Khamzat Chimaev is ready for that level of competition, especially a man of Leon Edwards, who was too overlooked for the division and potentially champion caliber. I just do not see it for Khamzat Chimaev. But if Khamzat Chimaev does go out and absolutely dismantles Edwards within a round or two, I am going to be truly speechless and never doubt this man again. And I promise that from the bottom of my heart, I will never question this man again. That is just going to be a phenomenal fight. The biggest thing for that fight is the fans win. Leon Edwards, that's something that didn't sit right with me about this whole situation, is Leon Edwards took this fight after some weird animosity with the UFC organization itself. They decided to remove him from the rankings for inactivity, yet he had just fought in 2019, I believe in July, against Rafael dos Anjos, and won that fight pretty decisively. And then COVID restrictions restricted fighters from fighting until Dana White figured something out in March of 2020. So to that point, Dana White had openly said, publicly stated during those times that he's not going to force anyone to fight who isn't comfortable with it. And then how can you contradict a statement like that, threatening to remove a fighter from the rankings for inactivity during COVID restrictions? It doesn't make any sense. Immediately after, nevertheless, Leon accepted a dangerous fight like this with no beneficial outcome from fighting number 15 Khamzat Chimaev, who is dangerous and scary to any opponent in the top 10. He didn't have to do that, but he did it right after the UFC decided to tell him that he was going to be removed from the rankings for inactivity. And in my opinion, it feels like almost like a strong arming position from the UFC that just didn't sit well with me. It just makes it seem like especially for example, a guy like Conor McGregor can be retired for over a year and still sit in the rankings, but a guy who's not as favorable in his style and his speaking ability like Leon Edwards can get removed because the UFC simply doesn't like him. And I think there needs to be more of a standardization for the fact that they should not be playing favoritism like that. Either way, the fans are going to win in this fight because a Khamzat Chimaev versus number 3 contender like Leon Edwards is huge. And I think that Leon Edwards, if he wins this fight very, very decisively himself, deserves the world. He deserves the next title shot. He deserves to be recognized for what he's done in the sport. He deserves all of it. But if Hamza Chimaev comes out and just absolutely dismantles this man, then we're looking at the next big thing. And I'm so excited for that fight. Like, let's do it. Let's see it. December 19th is going to be a huge night. Let's do it. Besides that, on that card, Jeff Neal is set to face his first big test, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, in the co-main event that night. Greg Hardy is back already. We just talked about him this night against Mcintyre. Marlon Moraes, former champ, he's set to face Rob Font. We've got Canadian UFC vet Misha Serkinov set to face Ryan Spann. And then the Jose Aldo versus Marlon Vera fight, who I mentioned earlier in the night. They're set to face off on this card as well. I believe on the very first fight of the main card. So this is a huge card. Like I said, Marlon Vera, he just came off a win off Sugar Sean O'Malley, and is arguably on a 7-fight win streak. If he didn't lose that decision, that he should have won. And then on the undercard of that, the undercard's just as big, which we got Chaos Williams back already once again, because COVID is just like throwing out these crazy fights for anyone who's on the American side and able to just fight whenever they feel like it. So they're making a lot of money. So I really hope that the international fighters get the makeup time that they truly deserve for the fact that they've been kind of put on hold besides Fight Island. Because these American fighters are just getting so much, and it's like you just know that, like, when you sign with an organization, you just hope that they're out for your best interest. So I do hope a lot of these international fighters eventually at some point will get the makeup experience that they deserve. But anyways, so Chaos Williams back already to fight Michael Pereira. The one next fight that I want to talk about real quick on the card, because I haven't looked him up too much, but Manel Cape, I believe is his name, if I'm pronouncing that right. He will be on his way over from Ryzen to debut in the UFC already against the number 5 contender Alexander Pantoja. This is a big test right off the bat, but I've talked to a couple of my coaches themselves, and they are like super excited for this guy's debut. And just reading kind of the interviews and everything going on in the UFC, they're expecting big things out of this guy. So I hope it's something that we can look forward to, and he can jump right into the top 5 at that point and see how it goes. But it's gonna be an exciting night of fights. That is so huge. Last one, Bilal Muhammad is gonna face off against Diego Lima. And there's 5 other bouts on that card besides what I've named off already, which are actually pretty exciting as well. But we're pressed for time, so I'm going to leave those out. But that December 19th is probably the greatest free card I've seen in a long time. So yeah, Christmas came early. Christmas is going to come early. That's our last card of the year on December 19th, and we couldn't be more blessed with that card, and a well-deserved Christmas vacation for Dana White and the UFC team for everything they've done for the fans and the fighters. It's gonna be good. And then right after, the only thing I wanted to cover real quick was we got January 23rd. Conor McGregor is signed, sealed, and delivered to fight Dustin Poirier for a second time. It's going to be interesting to see how these fighters have progressed and grown throughout their career. It's been a long time since they fought, but I do see Conor controlling the pace throughout that fight. And I think after Conor progresses to that fight and ends up winning that fight, I think it'll be a fairly early stoppage, just not as early as it was the first time. I see Conor McGregor being lined up next to fight for the title, whether it be a rematch against Habib Nurmagomedov, or whether it be a fight against probably Justin Geishi, but whoever should be the second name in a vacated title. And that's kind of just a waiting game to figure that out. But Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier will be one of those names, whoever wins that fight. And I think it's going to be Conor McGregor, so we're going to see that real soon. And just to keep this in mind, it's going to be, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, 7.5 weeks we're going to have off from this again. And our next podcast, because we're kind of covering UFC 256 right now, our next podcast is going to be UFC 257, which we're going to film on, I believe, January 14th or whatever that Thursday is around that time. We're going to be filming this, and we're going to be talking about Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier number 2, and that whole pay-per-view card once it kind of blooms. Lastly, I wanted to touch up on Paige Van Zandt's bare knuckle debut. It was pushed back to February 5th, the Friday right before the Super Bowl, actually. So it should be a good weekend and something to look forward to for all fight fans and all football fans. Whatever you want to watch, it's going to be a great weekend. You want to watch both, it's going to be exciting. And there's Paige Van Zandt, she has wins over the current champion in that weight class, so she's one to look out for, and it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be good. I don't know where Seth is. Like, yeah, he went out and used the toilet. Like, it seems like it's only been 20 minutes now, but I don't know. I hope he's all right. It's been a little concerning that he's not back yet, but anyways, okay. Thank you again for tuning in, Trash Talkers. We will see you back on January 23rd or before January 23rd, and we appreciate the support. We appreciate you for listening, and keep it classy.